Welcome back to another episode of Coaches on Zoom Drinking Coffee. I have another first-time meeting guest, which I love doing. This is Rylin Talbot, and Rylin is a wellness coach and much, much more. And we're going to talk about that on the episode. So Rylin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to just connect with yourself and dive into some very powerful conversation.
Yeah. So before we start recording, we talked a little bit about how we met. So a year ago, I ran a year-long coaching program, put it out to the world, and one of the people that came forward was somebody you had gone to high school with. And he went through the whole program with me for a year and had some transformational life experiences, not that I did, but that he was empowered to go and do on his own. And so I love the connection because I know him, and I know that if you're a good friend of his, that there's a real sort of connection around sort of being a great human being and coming from a place of wellness and intent for other people. So with that intro, tell us about yourself and sort of where we find you in the world in terms of coaching and helping other people.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, I always like to say good people bring good people. So, I'm just as excited to connect with yourself. I've heard nothing but amazing things. So just to dive into a little bit about my background and story of, really where I am today with both my own personal journey as well as where I am with coaching my clients and building a community. So my name is Rylin Talbot, and my journey started when I was about 17 years old. I got pretty sick without any sort of proper diagnosis. I was feeling a lot of physical body pains, a lot of really strong inflammation in my joints, in my ligaments, a lot of gut issues. And overall, I just had this lingering discontentment because being in this physical state constantly and seeking for answers and seeking for healing overall can really bring you down. So after a lot of trial and error through the medical system and through a lot of kind of halfway diagnoses, I decided to start to invest in my own education and really dive into the fitness industry and see how I could both heal myself, but also heal those around me, which led me to my program called Fitness and Health Promotion. So I went to school for fitness and health, became a personal trainer, and this was, I would say, about 3 years later on, so maybe around 21, 22, where I opened a small business called Peace in the Ruckus. And here I was just taking on clients one-on-one, doing some subcontracting under a wonderful trainer here in Barrie, who was working with a lot of athletes, a lot of hockey players, doing a lot of dry land training. So I really jumped into the personal training, a lot of the heavy lifting and the athletic performance, high intensity interval training, and started to find my grounds with wellness through movement. A couple of years later, I found myself working at Good Life Fitness, and I was there as a fitness manager for a few years. And this allowed me to really open up my range of the type of clients that I was working with and the types of experiences and stories that I was hearing. And I worked with clients from, the 80 years old who have never stepped foot in a gym before to the young 11-year-old who wants to get better at karate to everything in between. And I noticed that the tools and resources that I had from my personal training background was very impactful, but it wasn't the sole answer to optimal wellness and optimal happiness. So I decided to continue my journey, and I applied for school to holistic nutrition. So I'm still currently studying with everything going on. I've had to take some shifts in how I'm completing that. But through my transition going into holistic wellness, I started to once again work on myself and branch in a whole other range of tools and ways to heal your mind and your body and really achieve joy in everything that I was doing in my life as well as with my clients. So I tapped back into Peace in the Ruckus. I had, as I was managing the gym, I really was focused on the success of that platform. But going back to school, it opened some space to focus on Peace in the Ruckus again. And Peace in the Ruckus is the company that I started, as I mentioned, 7 years ago. But it's really overall, it's a mantra and it's a lifestyle. And it's, if you've ever heard the term find the silver lining or stop and smell the roses, it's a very similar way of changing your perspective on life to find peace in the ruckus of everything that's going on around us. So I applied to the Ontario Vipassana Center, and I had done a 10-day silent meditation. As I was going to school, taking courses part-time and starting to build up this community. And this was what I would call the pivotal moment of my journey, because through this experience if for those who have never heard of Vipassana or have never gone to a meditation center, like myself, this is the first time, but there is no eye contact, no communication, no writing, no music, no cell phones. Basically, you meditate from 5 a.m. till 8 p.m., living similarly to a monk, and you eat small meals, and you really just dive really deep into your own self and your experiences. So this is, as I mentioned, that pivotal moment to realize that, wow, we are so much more than just our body. We are so powerful from a mental component, and there's so much that we can store up here. And if we can really start to harness this, and we can if we can really start to harness this, we can truly start to change our life, change our relationships, change our relationship with ourselves. So I started to run some wellness events at the end of last year, 2019. We started off with a few women's holistic wellness events, myself and my friend Ashley Eden, and we started to collaborate and create these events to really start to express our experience and express how much more there is to healing. Ashley is somebody who I met as well at Good Life. We both work together, and she has now a online wellness center. And so the two of us really came together with both of our shared experiences and our vast experiences with coaching. We decided, how better can we now take our one-on-one coaching experiences and really stretch it out to help even more people and bring people together, and the importance of community and connection and sharing stories and empowerment. So we started to create these holistic wellness events, and we ran 2 of those. We had 7 in store for this year, but of course now we're shifting over to some online events. So we're doing some virtual meditation circles and workshops right now, but overall, really just, my journey has taken me from movement and healing and trying to find the root cause, to testing out all these different types of tools and mechanisms, to realizing that all of those tools are what you can assemble onto your tool belt. And there's this big blanket umbrella of holistic wellness that we can tap into and share resources and connect and really build a community to overall know that, we are evolving, ever-changing beings, day to day, moment to moment. And if we can have tools to know how to best serve ourselves and our emotions, our mentality, then we can best serve others in the world as well.
Mm. Wow. It's beautiful. Quite a journey. So what I take from that, along with your own journey, is this idea that, first of all, I love peace in the ruckus. Very timely for the world we live in today. I'm sure there's a lot of parents that could resonate with that right now, at home with their kids and everything else. But it is a mindset, right? It's the peace comes from a mindset of finding peace within yourself in a world that's full of noise and full of ruckus all the time. And so, well, as you said, wellness comes in all kinds of different forms, from what we eat to how we move to how we think, how we sleep. It all contributes. So it's the question I have, it's fascinating because I'm working with some other coaches right now. One lady who does sort of wellness and mindfulness coaching for celebrities in Los Angeles. Another who does parent coaching for parents of children with complex learning challenges, right? And in both cases, their methodologies are very similar to what you've talked about. It's about helping those people find space and the ability to be centered and mindful in a situation that's chaotic around them a lot of times and out of control. Right? So I'm wondering, like, this transition in this COVID world, and then whatever the talk of new normal really means for people. How do you see people shifting now, like in terms of their approach to re-entering society that's going to start eventually getting back to busyness? Do you think there's been a shift with the time people have had sort of to be at home and kind of change the pace of their lives?
Yeah, I definitely think there has been a major shift. I think a lot of the feedback I get is that, yes, we all know that we need to change. We all know that we need to better ourselves. We all know that the world needs our attention. But it's one thing to make that change, that decision to change on your own, and it's another to have to be forced to change. And a lot of us are being forced to change right now. So in my opinion, I would say that it's pretty inevitable for our mindsets to not change with our current reality. You know, it's hard because everybody's situation is different, and I'm granted a situation where my living space is pretty quiet. I have, you know, I've got all my resources and I'm pretty comfortable. So for myself, I've really harnessed this time and truly tried to find that peace in the ruckus, as much as, you know, sometimes my thoughts and my worries and fears can start to pop up and really start to shift your mood and how you're looking at the world. And because we really don't know a lot, there's, you know, a lot of conclusions and theories and a lot of predictions, but we don't know. And I think that, you know, it's a beautiful time to really start to tap into your mindset and how you're viewing the world and how you're taking care of yourself, because, you know, we're constantly trying to find this grounding and this space of presence and this centering. And what better time to do it right now when we are, you know, everything's on pause, there's no impulses. If you have that, you know, fear of missing out, there's not a lot going on. So you can start to shift those negative feelings and those fears, but without the proper tools to do so, you know, you can just continuously amplify that for yourself. So I think, you know, with the work that you do and with just starting conversations like this, by creating communities, by connecting one another, you start to realize how people from all different ages, all different genders, all different backgrounds are starting to come together and share their perspectives. And we just need some people to provide a little bit of an outline or provide a bit of a path to show the way. And the more that we can provide these tools and be vulnerable with ourselves, I always, you know, another one of my little catchphrases are vulnerability is trendy and rawness is realness. And I love those because it's true, you know, being vulnerable is, you know, as a little bit of a iffy kind of territory, but it's because we define that word with that relation. So if we can start to be vulnerable in front of each other, be open with one another, and hear each other's different perspectives, we can start to all shift and really come together to collaborate and to support each other throughout this time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a huge believer in that. I work with a lot of students, you know, university age students, and, you know, they're at a time in their lives when they're trying to define themselves and figure out what their careers are going to be all about. And we do group coaching programs with them, and it's interesting to see the transition from, you know, total strangers to, you know, maybe sharing a personal story that's happened to them at some point in their life, and then, you know, 2 or 3 meetings in, they're inseparable. And how they've formed these bonds because they realize that they come from these sort of shared life experiences that may be different, but in a lot of ways they're very similar, right? And they've overcome them and they've had their struggles, and that's very empowering for people, I think, right? When it's easy to feel that you're isolated and on your own and you have your own challenges that maybe you think nobody else could understand. Vulnerability is a really powerful tool to break through that. That's beautiful. I'm curious. So a year ago, I spent 2 weeks doing a 600-kilometer hike through northern Canada, and I remember long days of nothingness, right? No conversation, no humans. The odd train would go by, but that was about it. And I remember the process, the mental process that would happen every day of sort of, kind of like I called it problem thinking, so where all the problems in my life would come to me. And then there would sort of be this stage into wisdom where I was almost seeing the solutions to the problems, right? My brain was kind of transitioning into different phases. And I'm wondering, when you went and did the silent retreat, those are long days of no stimulation. What was that like for you? Like, what was it like to go through those, especially those early days? And what did it feel like to go through that?
Yeah, so I've done this twice.
Wow.
So I would say that they were both different experiences, but I'm going to speak on my first experience. Just, I think that's where most people would be meeting us.
Mm.
So, when I was going into this was a time of my life where, I like I said, being real and being vulnerable is key in my life. So this was a time in my life where everything had changed. My job had changed. My 3-year relationship had ended. I was realizing I wanted to change cities. I just realized that everything in my life, one thing after another, it was like these constant, over about a year or so, these constant red flags, until everything sort of one by one just fizzled out. And I just realized this isn't for me. This isn't making me happy. And I was kind of wiped with a blank slate. And I went, you know what? I had heard about this meditation. I'm going to go. I'd lined up a new job. I was going to be working up north, going to just kind of take a little break from a bit of the busier city life. I was doing a lot of work in Toronto as well. And I just wanted to, calm down a little bit with the stimulation around me. So when I went into this meditation retreat, I was somebody who was used to having a schedule, meetings, very timely, very, every moment, every 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, were all scheduled out in my schedule. So the first 1 to 2 days were very peaceful in a sense. They were peaceful because I didn't know what to expect. It was quiet, and I was almost, I wasn't really realizing what I was about to get into. Mm. It felt very, just very peaceful, very, okay, I can take my foot off the pedal. I can, I don't have to worry about my meals. Everything's taken care of. I just need to show up. This is what I need to do. I know the schedule. I'll follow the schedule, and I'll go to all my meditations, and I'll listen to the instructions, and I'm going to go through this. And I thought it would be, I see a lot of trendy experiences of yoga retreats or meditation retreats. So I was thinking, I was kind of had this mindset that I was expecting a little bit of some oomph, Mm. So the first 2 days were like that. And once you get into day 3 and day 4, that's when you really start to sink into the first stage of the technique. And that's when I started to feel, okay, things are coming up for me, and emotions are coming up for me. And moment by moment, more and more and more start to come up. It was almost like, imagine you're sitting in an auditorium, and there's a big, beautiful stage with these big red curtains. And you're sitting there, and the lights are slowly dimming, and you're like, oh, I'm ready for the movie. This is going to be so great. And then all of a sudden it goes dark, and you're like, ooh. And then the curtains open, and it was nothing you ever expected. Cool. It was just, the most transformative experience I've ever gone through. Now, day to day, it was different. It was evolving. My mindset was evolving. I was going deeper and deeper into my my mind and the stories that I had been telling myself for years, the beliefs that I had adopted. And I was starting to go, you know, do I believe this, or did somebody tell me this and I'm believing it? You know, do I think this about myself, or did somebody say this about me and maybe I took it the wrong way? You know, did I really feel this way about that relationship, or do I really feel that way about this person? Or, you know, and so all these different thoughts and beliefs and emotions come up. And as these thoughts and beliefs start to come up, the emotions start to come through. And being in a space like that really forces you to deal with them. Mm. So you have the tools and techniques, you have the practice, the breath work that you go through each day. But as, you know, you are filtering through and you're pulling up those deep roots from within yourself, it is a very, as I mentioned, transformative experience. It's a very unpredictable experience. And it's a very beautiful experience in the most real type of way. You know, relating it to nature. Nature is, you know, constant beauty, life, and then decay and destruction. Mm. And that's the experience that I felt moment to moment in my mind and my body.
Wow. And so how does that serve you today? I mean, before you answer that, I remember reading a book at a very transformative time in my life, The Untethered Soul. And Michael Singer talks about having done a lot of this deep meditation work and silent retreats, and sort of writes the book from the perspective of, you know, those experiences are powerful, but what you come out of them with are some tools to then go into your life with. And so his book is really about the tools. You know, maybe not everybody needs 10 days of silence to find these solutions, but I totally know what you mean from that hike experience, that it took a process to get to the point of the learnings that I had. And so I don't want to shortchange the fact that you've invested twice now a lot of time and vulnerability into creating these. But what comes to mind in terms of the tools now that are available to you as a result of those experiences?
Yeah, you know, I love to speak about these experiences because I am very realistic in realizing that not all of us have 10 days, 20 days to go and seek this out and to really go and find the answers on their own. And this is where I love coaching, because not everyone has to go there. Not everyone has to hike Machu Picchu to know what it looks like. So there are so many different tools that you can take, and I'll list off a few different ones that you can really just implement into your day-to-day life. There was a coach that said a quote. I can't remember the exact name, so I apologize for the lack of resource, but they said, anyone can go and sit on the side of a mountain or go to a beautiful space and just meditate and go into their mind. But it takes a very strong, resilient person to take those tools and then use them in day-to-day practice. And so that's where, you know, with the community that I'm building and with my coaching, I try to utilize my experience and deliver those tools in a practical way that when you're going day to day, you can just stop and pull your little comb out of your pocket, give yourself a little quick fix, and then keep carrying on throughout your day-to-day life. So a few of these different tools that are extremely powerful. The first one I'm going to list off is journaling. And I call the pen the vessel to the soul. And yes, journaling is a very hot topic right now. Everybody's, wanting to journal, and, it is a very hot topic. But there's a reason why cliche sayings are cliche and they stick around. And there's a reason why certain tools are seen amongst many different platforms and different forms of coaching. So journaling is an excellent way for you to just tap in with yourself and really feel like, realize what's going on with you in that moment. And there's an excellent exercise. I'll give an overview of this exercise and I'll send it over so that you can put it in the notes afterwards, if for anybody who's listening, if you'd like to try it on your own. It's about a 7 to 10 minute long exercise. It won't take too much time, but this exercise is called the 100 questions. And what this does is it allows you to take a moment in your life and just pause. Now, in our schooling system and things like that, we're taught super, proper grammar, proper punctuation, proper articulation, everything like that. I want you, while you're doing this exercise, to just throw that out the window and just, don't worry about your spelling, don't worry about punctuation. Really, we're going to be tapping into just a free flow, a free, nice stream of consciousness as you're writing out your questions. So you're going to list off numbers 1 to 100 on your page. That way you don't have to worry about thinking, keeping track of the questions. And you're just going to start writing. In your first 30, 35 questions, they're probably going to be questions that are more mundane, things such as, what am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to wear to my cousin's wedding? Things like this. In the second chunk of questions, you're going to notice that there's a little bit of a theme starting to occur. So you might notice they're all pertaining towards relationships or future, maybe past, career. And then in the third set of questions, you're going to notice some profound wisdom that's going to start to come to you. So these are going to be diving a little bit deeper. Once you're done the exercise, you can stand back, take a little walk, take a little stretch, come back to your page, and just start to highlight and notice if there's any recurring theme. So are the questions constantly around your physical fitness goals? Are these constantly around your current town that you live in? Maybe you've always wanted to travel. Are they around a certain worry or a past encountering? Are they about your future, maybe a different career? And so this is an amazing exercise that you can do just 10 minutes if you're feeling, okay, why am I constantly upset? Or why am I moody? Why am I overreacting? There's something that I need to change in my life, but I can't really pinpoint what it is. This is an excellent exercise for you to just take that 10 minutes, sit down, don't worry about anything, write it all out, stand back and see, okay, maybe this is where I can start. And then you can start to branch out with some more smaller tools, which I will give you a few more as well.
That's a very cool exercise. I do a similar exercise around setting goals with some clients where, kind of go through the same list, whether it's 50 or 100. And it's what's interesting, and maybe this is an interesting conversation piece, is what happens, like what's going on when you start seeing that transition from sort of the practical, easy stuff to throw down, and then you're going searching for it, right? It seems very analogous to sort of what happens when you go into a silent retreat or you go on a long hike. The easy stuff comes up first, and the deeper, more difficult stuff takes a little while to come out, right? I'm assuming that there's something similar with these exercises that we're trying to tap into.
Yeah, so by removing the barriers, by removing the rules and the restrictions around how you need to do this exercise, the way you need to do this exercise, don't forget to spell this way, don't start the question with an and, it removes your judgment. And so by removing any sort of rules and by just creating an intention in the mind, so my intention is to seek assistance. My intention is to seek where it is that I need to focus and align myself right now. So by removing those barriers, it allows ourselves to go into this place within ourselves as we're writing and as we're flowing through, to not judge ourselves. So we're not stopping and thinking, oh, well, maybe I didn't want to do that. Maybe I did want to do that. Maybe no. So similar as when you're meditating, as thoughts are coming up, as beliefs are coming up, we're trying to disconnect the emotion and the belief from what does not serve us in our highest good. So very similar concept with this exercise. That's just a little bit more practical without having to maybe sit and do a full meditation. If you aren't somebody who, say if you're new to meditation, this is an excellent exercise that still gives you that feeling, that sense of clarity, but it gives you just some tools and an outline, a path to follow in order to get to that state of self-awareness and knowing.
I love it. Love it. Okay, so next tool to tap into that then.
Yes, so my next tool is called mirror work.
Mm.
And mirror work is an excellent tool. Now, this is something that branches off from the journaling, which is so once you found where it is that you need to focus. So maybe you need to focus on your self esteem. Maybe it is that you are feeling you're not getting enough validation in your life, or maybe you're feeling that whatever it might be that you're feeling. Mirror work is an excellent tool to start to give yourself what it is that you are seeking. So Louise Hay, she's the founder of Hay House. It's a wonderful platform, tons of amazing coaches, medical intuitives, and etc. She is passed now, but this was one of the most well-known tools that she was known for.
Mm.
And mirror work is a way for you to really deepen your connection with yourself. So sometimes it can be a little bit easier said than done to simply look yourself in the eye in the mirror. Walking yourself up to the mirror and just giving yourself that look, that tender, loving look in your eye that you would give to your mother, your best friend, your newborn baby.
Mm.
As I mentioned, sometimes it can be a little bit easier said than done. But through pairing mirror work with certain types of affirmations, you can really start to transform your relationship with yourself and how you perceive what it is that you're going through, as well as how you perceive yourself. So as for an example, saying things like, I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you did that the other day. I think you looked really sharp when you got dressed for yourself, the other day.
Right.
Things like this. Sometimes we as humans are constantly seeking validation outside of ourselves. Living in a bit of a consumer society, we're constantly looking for that next fix, or who can help me, or who do I need to hear this from, etc. So if we can start to realize where are those little micro moments that we can take in our day to give that to ourselves.
Mm.
So starting with that exercise, finding out what it is that you need, where it is that you need to focus, and then by seeing, okay, what parts of this can I start to give to myself, and what portions do I truly need help with in my everyday relationships?
Wow. Fascinating. So how has that exercise helped you in your development?
That exercise has been the cell phone in my pocket of tools. I use that to compare the importance. We always have our cell phone in our pocket pretty well. I use mirror work in my everyday, whether I be at work, whether it's first thing in the morning when I wake up, whether I'm driving and I go to look out the mirror and I get a glimpse of my eye. Anytime I'm going places, this is a huge tool that has immensely helped me to shift my mindset. I am somebody who is very, very highly sensitive, very intuitive, and I feel. So if we just kind of, going back to my story at the beginning when I was feeling a lot of intense body pain, physical pain, fibromyalgia symptoms, arthritic symptoms, I knew it wasn't right because I was only 17, 18 years old. So through this experience, I started to realize how I perceive life, how I feel through life. Some people feel more, some people, see more, dream more. Some people are more analytical, more science-based. I realized that I would feel a lot more. And so I would take things very, very literally. So if somebody said to me, oh, I hate my hair, I would take that and I would feel that. And I would feel, oh my gosh, she hates her hair. And I want to help. And so I was constantly collecting all of these experiences in my life that I didn't need to carry. I didn't need to carry all these experiences with me. I didn't need to carry all of, my beliefs and all the stories that I was telling myself around my experiences. I could start to micro pivot how I was viewing them. And so say, for instance, I'm at work, I'm dealing with a grumpy customer. They say something, I know that through now, some self-discovery, I am a very highly sensitive person. So I'm going to check in with myself. and realize that's not true. I don't believe that. I don't buy that. I'm not adopting that as part of my story or my belief. But it's not enough for me to just think that. So by pairing your thoughts with your sight, with your sound, using the vast array of your senses, standing in front of the mirror, go to the washroom quickly and say, Rylin, that wasn't true. I don't believe that, and I love you so much, and you handled yourself really well in that situation. That was pretty tough, and that was caused a little bit of anxious feelings, but you did a good job, and let's carry on. And just by taking that small moment, instead of the brain doing its job and cascading and trying to amplify the feelings that it just felt, you're now just going, oh, stop there, brain. I'm not going to go down the negative section. I'm just going to take 2 seconds to steer it a different direction and start to amplify that positivity again in my life, pertaining to what I know to be true about myself and my heart.
Yeah, love it. So it's you carry this sort of personal coach with you who can speak back to you what you need to hear in the moment to reframe, which that's powerful. And I love the multisensory aspect of it. And I think you're right that that's probably a huge contributor to why it works so well, is that it just tricks our brain enough with all those senses to just believe, oh, this is the new truth. The old truth is gone. This is the new truth, and I can accept this. That's beautiful. Okay, well, you've set us up for tool number 3 in Rylin's toolbox.
Yes, definitely. So the first one being journaling.
Yep.
The second one, as I mentioned, being
mirror work.
Yes, being the mirror work. Thank you. The third and most important tool that I also use in my day-to-day life is, now, as I mentioned, it's a little bit embedded through the culture and through some of these terms, but it's truly vulnerability. And I am on a mission to redefine the energy around that word, because there's so much work around vulnerability, and there's so much of a misperceived notion around being vulnerable. But being vulnerable can come through many different forms. Now, being vulnerable with yourself is the first step to then being able to speak your truth to others. If we're constantly hiding from ourselves, how can we shine our hearts to the world? So being vulnerable with yourself is, by redefining the term vulnerability, you are opening up this entire world of self-knowing, and without this, self-judgment and this fear of being seen. So, sorry, what's her name? I'm drawing a blank on the coach's name, but I'll send a couple of other resources in. Brene Brown, that's her name. Brene Brown talks a lot around vulnerability, and this is where a lot of the motivation came to play. So when we are working through our tools, when we're going through our day-to-day, when thoughts and emotions are coming to us, it's one thing to identify how we're feeling by using our emotional compass. So your emotional compass is going to tell you where you're going to start. So are you feeling happy? Are you feeling sad? And by taking that emotional compass and following that direction to go a little bit deeper. So why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling this way? Without adopting vulnerability and befriending vulnerability, it is difficult for said individual to be very brutally honest with themselves. So maybe you are feeling that way because you did something. Maybe you are feeling that way because you have some growth to do or some new perspectives to be changing, or maybe you need to step up and say an apology. Without being vulnerable, it removes the ability to be compassionate and forgiving. Because immediately when we start to sense, oh, you know what? As human beings, we are naturally mirroring one another and we're naturally projecting. So with taking that moment to be vulnerable with yourself and being very real and aligned with where the truth of this emotion comes from, we can then start to take a step forward and actually walk into our full selves, take a step into our own shoes and really gain that. So vulnerability, as much as it's, you know, it is an action, and it is, you know, a way of thinking. If we can redefine vulnerability and start to look at vulnerability as a within reflection, we can then get rid of the shame and guilt that we feel from the past and from these emotions that we've collected and from these stories we tell ourselves, and start to move forward and actually shine our hearts to the world, because we are no longer bought into those false beliefs.
Wow, cool. I love that. It makes, yeah, I mean, I love the distinction, because vulnerability for a lot of people is this sense of having to kind of expose yourself to somebody else. But where you're going is, if I'm true to myself first, then there's nothing then what I'm exposing is consistent with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, that's a state of being where you are being true to yourself, and then putting that version of you out to the world. And that's the ultimate vulnerability, is to just be yourself. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Mm-hmm. So this has been clearly, I mean, it's been clearly a journey of your own to get to this point. You know, in coaching, we talk about the fact that we can only go as deep with our clients as we've gone with ourselves. So it's, it sounds like you've put in some very, very significant work into your own development, your own awareness, your own being. And in a world of ruckus, you seem like somebody that could bring peace to that ruckus. To steal a phrase, yes. So, yeah, is there anything else you want to share today? I mean, it's a beautiful, I love the package of tools, because, you know, it almost feels like, well, they are very interconnected, clearly. But, you know, there's no quick fix to some of this for people, right? You have to work through the layers and go through the process to find those sort of inner being pieces. The power of coaching, like, how has that, you weren't a coach before when you started on this journey. I mean, you were doing coaching in a physical sense with your clients, but now when you're guiding people through these kinds of processes, what's the experience of being with Rylin as a customer, you know, in the kind of work you're doing today?
Yeah, you know, the work that I'm doing today now, as I mentioned, with everything, all of the changes in our world, my mission was to start this community and was to build my soul tribe, and overall empower as many people as I can through, I think you know, most coaches have their story and have their reasons as to why they got to the place that they did. And so I like to be very honest and say that this journey has, you know, it came from a place of darkness, and it's now finding that peace in the ruckus. And so the best word that I can use to explain the experience that you would get through you know, through a Peace in the Ruckus retreat, or through a virtual meditation, or our workshops, is transformation. Is that you feel this sense, you know, the feedback that I get constantly is that, thank you for letting me show up as I am, where I am, how I am, and just allowing us to just be real. Because we're constantly trying to wear these masks and these, you know, show up as different versions of ourselves around this person, or in a business meeting, you show up like this, at a brunch, you show up like this, a baby shower, you show up like that, these people this way, that people that way. You know, I think there's only so much energy that we can expend into holding up these beliefs around ourselves until we just start to question, why am I thinking that? And there must be people who just accept me as I am. So through the work that we do and that we teach, we allow you to show up as you are. And what I love is that every retreat that we have, every online experience that we have, you have every gender and age, and you know, we're all just coming together to collectively realize we're all dealing with something. Small talk can only go on for so long until we go, okay, I see through that little grin you have going on there, and can I help you? You know, I might be 80, you might be 8, but hey, you know, there's something that you can always share, a different perspective. So you know, I've been doing a lot of work with the MS Society. My dad has MS, and he, prior to COVID-19, was going to his chapter groups, but they've had to now, you know, stop those groups, of course. So a lot of the work that we do is with a lot of, you know, the MS Society and, you know, or sorry, MS, I guess, demographic. And you know, you just start to realize that although I don't have MS, you know, the different struggles, whether it be physical limitations, mental limitations, emotional limitations, are all very real and very similar. And there's this really beautiful connection that I'm starting to see come together of understanding and of different ways of viewing different groups, different populations, vulnerable populations. And I think a lot of the stereotypes and the way that we're using our wording and the way that we're viewing things, the stories we're telling ourselves, are starting to shift immensely. So, you know, who better than for us to start to establish the new future that we see? You know, we have a blank canvas in front of ourselves. So we just need somebody to give us the tools and provide a way and bring people together so that we can start to create the life that we know belongs to us, and will create that optimal joy and happiness. So, you know, as you mentioned, it's not going to happen overnight, but through building this lifestyle and creating a lifestyle and the tools and resources in a community to support this way of living, I, as you can tell, get very passionate and very excited. So this is just the beginning, and I hope that I can connect with, you know, just more and more people to help enlighten.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an honor to have the opportunity to meet you and to share the message, because I you know, I think it's a fundamental message for the society we live in today, to realize that there is peace to be found in the ruckus, and it's actually within. And if we have a society full of people that are peaceful from within, imagine the impact on the world around us. So it is my honor to share your message, and great we were connected. I understand why we're connected now, and I'll do everything I can to help get your message out.
Thank you. And it's just been an honor as well to be here with you and to have met you. I definitely will stay connected, and yeah, just, you know, if there's anything I can do to support as well. You know, we're all in this together. So just once again, thank you for giving me a space and a platform to share this message. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rylin. It's been great, and we will get the message out to the world very soon, and all the notes for how to get in touch with you and social media and all that will be in the notes with the show, so people can find you. And I look forward to continuing our conversations in the future.
I do as well. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah.